Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a quick little video about the CTC or L3 CTS selection process. Now, I've actually had a few comments about the selection process, and I haven't really had time to do a video about it, but at the time of this video being filmed, I'm about to do a selection process for a well-known airline. So, I might as well take you through some of the little tips and tricks that I'm using to possibly help you get onto an airline program. So, we're going to talk about the CTC/L3 CTS, however you call it, scheme. Now, it was quite a while ago that I did this selection process, but I do have a rough idea of how it still works. So, it's divided into 4 sections. Now, in the morning, I'll explain. Basically, the CTC L3 selection process is done at Dibden Manor, which is in between Southampton and Bournemouth, and it's a one-day event. My advice would be, if you're not living within 30 minutes of Dibden Manor, I would recommend staying in a hotel in the area the night before. You want to be at your best performance on the day. For example, right now I am in a hotel very near the airline's headquarters that I'm about to do selection for. I am literally a 4-minute drive away, so I'm going to get up tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn, get in my car, and I will arrive at the airline at my best. So hopefully that will be alright. So you've arrived at your selection. What's the first thing you're going to do? Well, it's divided into the morning and afternoon phases. In the morning you'll be split into groups, depending on how many of you there are doing this selection on that given day. But for me, the very first test that I did was PILAT. Now, this is considered to be the hardest part of the selection process. It's something that's very difficult to train for. I mean, what PILAT does, it tests your hand-eye coordination, and it also tests your mental capacity. So, to some extent you can work on these things, but it's one of those things, you've either got it or you haven't. However, I cannot recommend enough to practice. You've got to practice this sort of thing, because if you walk in there with no practice whatsoever, you're not doing yourself any favours. I mean, yes, you do get a couple of practice runs before you do the real thing, but yeah, you want to get something at home. So, if you haven't got the money to shell out for a pilot aptitude test software, because they're not cheap, they're fairly expensive. Simple things like going on, I mean, if you're serious about a career as an airline pilot, chances are you've probably got a flight sim on your computer. For me, I've got Microsoft Flight Simulator 10. Other people have used X-Plane 10 or 11, whatever number they're on now. But the point is, if you've got a flight simulator, you don't have to spend any money straight away, because you can test your hand-eye coordination just by doing hand flying. Best way of practicing this, my advice would be, is set up an ILS approach, so instrument landing approach on your flight sim. Turn the turbulence up to maximum, turn the wind shear up to maximum, and make it a massive crosswind, and that will make it interesting. That will get you through the hand-eye coordination portion of the test. The mental capacity, a little bit tricky to practice for without an aptitude test software, but again, you could do this hand-eye coordination stuff and have someone with you asking you to remember certain things and recall them after a little while. So you can actually prepare for this without spending any money, but obviously, if you want to give yourself the best chance, you want to go for an actual pilot aptitude test software. And another thing, with the room that you'll be doing the aptitude test in, it will be freezing at first. Don't worry, you will come out sweating. It's not fun, but you have to do it, and it is a challenge. So, after I did the PILAT test, I went on and did the group exercises. Now, at the time I did my selection, there was 2 group exercises. The first one, you all sit down and you're talking about your knowledge of the aviation industry and what it takes to be a pilot. So if you know your stuff, this is a nice easy part. You can talk to people who are similarly minded, so it's not too bad. The next part is a little bit more tricky. So the second group task, I'm afraid I'm not allowed to say what my one was, but I can give you a sort of idea of what they are generally like. So as expected, it's a group task, so it's going to be group work. You'll be put into a situation where there is no right or wrong answer. But what CTC/L3 CTS are looking for, they're looking for you to demonstrate pilot qualities. So you want to demonstrate a bit of leadership, the ability to listen, and also you want to look at communication in general and how you go about problem solving. So if you've got very strong people, I mean, it's a tricky one, because when you get in there, you've got to sort of gauge how everyone else is around you. I mean, you could have one person who is incredibly dominant and doesn't give anyone else a chance. They won't like that. Yes, they've demonstrated leadership skills, but they've bulldozed everyone else out of the way. However, if you do get someone like that, you can pipe up and say, hang a minute mate, let someone else have a turn. I think you've given your contribution to the group exercise. So there are ways around this kind of thing. The main thing is you want to demonstrate all the qualities that they're looking for, which if you've done your research, you will know exactly what you need to get across. And don't be afraid to speak up. If you're not happy about something, say it. I mean, you can sound stupid if you want, but if you don't say anything and it's critical, then you'll be even more stupid and you'll probably fail. So that's the group exercises. Also in the morning we do the maths test, but I'm going to come back to that because I'm going to show you something. So in the afternoon we do what's known as a competency-based interview. Again, this can be very daunting, especially for those of you who have never done an interview before. When I did my very first interview for CTC, I think I'd only ever done 1, maybe 2 interviews at best beforehand, so my experience was extremely limited. But they do make you very relaxed, they are very friendly. And the reason why they do this is so they can see the person that is actually sitting before them. They want you to feel relaxed so you can open up about yourself. Obviously don't open up too much, otherwise you could end up digging yourself a hole. But the whole point is, if you know your stuff and you can provide examples of where you've given, for example, customer service, demonstrated leadership skills, so on and so forth, you've done your research, you know what you need to say. And if you don't know the answer to a question, don't lie. If you lie and you get caught, you're out the door. It's as simple as that. So be honest, be yourself, and if you pass, then you know you're on the right career track. So I'm going to come back to maths now and talk about it, because basically the maths test is 15 questions, 15 minutes, and they're generally fairly basic. I mean, if you've got a GCSE in mathematics, grade C or higher, chances are that you'll pass the maths test. The hardest bit is keeping yourself calm under the pressure. You know how much you've got riding on this maths test, and you know if you fail it, you're not going to get through. So, what's the best way of preparing for the maths test? Well, like I said, it's not difficult. I mean, GCSE standard, so if you get some revision guides for, I think it's Key Stage 4 it's called, but it's probably changed since I last did, because that was years ago. So, at the end of the day, it's simple. Obviously you don't get a calculator, so you need to do a lot of hand calculations. There's a very good way of practicing this. I've got my laptop here, a pen and a pad of paper, and I'm going to just pick up the camera, swing it round and show you exactly how I prepared for the maths test. It's a lot easier than you think. So what you're looking at here is my laptop screen right now. I've divided it into 2 sections, and right here, pad of paper and a pen. So what we've got here is, if you go on Google, open up two tabs, so you've got one tab on the left, one tab on the right, both open at the same time. Type in random number generator in both of them, and then what you want to do is you want to select your max and min to 1 and 100, and on the right 1 and 10,000. This will be more than adequate for what we've got planned. Now obviously you can do simple addition and subtraction, but that's quite easy. What you want to do is division and multiplication. That's the hardest part. So what we're going to do here, so I'm going to get my mouse, generate a random number. So we've got 27, so I'm going to come down here, try not to lean the keyboard too much, so 27, we're going to have that as a division 1, and we'll do a multiplication 1 over here, on the right 22. That's a 27, so ignore that. And then we're going to come over to our second generator. That's too friendly for my liking. Let's find a nice one. There we go. 7724. So if we come up here, it's a bit difficult to look for a camera and write at the same time, but I will give it a go. So let's scribble that out. Let's do one fresh. 7724 divided by, sorry, not divided by, times by 27. So, here you are, you've got multiplication and division. I'm now going to pause it and quickly run it through in my head. Oh, by the way, if you want to try these two out for yourself, they're actually pretty difficult. It took me just over a minute to do the multiplication and division of these two. So, if you don't want to see the answer, you should probably pause the video now, as I'm going to pan down and show you the mess that is my workings out. So here we go. Yep. And the good news is, I've already checked on the calculator, both of these are right. So 7,724 divided by 27 is pretty much 286, give or take. And 7,724 multiplied by 27 is 208,548. If you can do either one of them in under a minute, you're golden. Because nothing is going to be that difficult. Because the great thing about the maths test, so I'm going to spin the camera around. So as I was just saying, the great thing about the maths test is it's multiple choice. So if you have no idea what the answer is, you should always have a guess, and you never know, you might get it right. Obviously be a bit careful with that with the airlines, however, because I am aware that some of them do negatively mark. So if that is the case, then you should probably only put an answer down if you're pretty sure. But like I say, it's multiple choice, and the great thing is the answers are so far apart that even if you're near the answer, like even if you made a small error, if you're near the answer, you will get it. So for example, this one that I just did will take 7,724 times 27. You could make that a lot easier by simply doing 7,500 times 30. It's a lot easier calculation, and it will get you the answer that is nearest. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it for you now and tell you how much that is out by. I don't even know why I bothered pausing it, I'll do it that quickly. So if you do 7,500 times 30, it gets you 225,000, which is quite near the 208,548. It's near enough to get you the answer in the real thing. Because the answers in the CTC L3 maths test will be, there'll be three options, and one of them will be 208,548, which would be the right one. Another one might be 20,855, so you've missed out a decimal place. And the other one could be something ridiculous like 18,500,000. So it's fairly obvious which one is the right answer, but obviously if you work it out correctly with the exact numbers, then you will be absolutely sure. But it just depends on how quickly you can do multiplication and division. So, I think I've talked enough about the selection process. Don't worry if you're unsuccessful, because there's 4 sections, and say for example you pass 3 of them but you fail on the 4th one. So say for example you pass everything but pilots. CTC L3 CTS will invite you back for a reselection, and you won't have to do the whole process again, and you won't have to pay the full fee again. You'll pay what's known as a reselection fee, and you will only redo the parts of selection that you failed upon. So you can spend all the time you want brushing up on that specific area. You've seen it before, you know what to expect, you can get through it. And I know loads of people that have done reselections, so don't worry if you don't get it on the first. I mean, it's great if you get it on the first attempt, and if you secure an airline program, that's off to you. You've obviously got something. So, I think I've rambled on enough here. I need to, well, I've done all my maths practice, I've done my pilots practice. I just need to do a bit more digging on my airline, and then I'm going to get a good night's sleeping, get up early, get some breakfast, and dash over to the airline's headquarters, and then hopefully it will go well. So, as I said, this video was in response to a series of comments that I've had. So, if you are interested in a specific part of the training and I haven't covered it yet, leave a comment. If I get enough people ask about it, I will have a chat. I'll put a video like this together. I mean, I can't respond to all the comments, so I'm extremely busy, as you may appreciate. So, hopefully all will go well. Like I say, best luck if you are going for the selection process, regardless of which airline, training school you're going for. Best luck. If you've got it in you and you've got enough get up and go, you'll do great. On that note, I wish you the best of luck, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.